Hi there. So in the last lecture, we left off where our ball was just moving off the screen. It wasn't doing anything. So if I F5 our code and it runs, you can see that the ball just moves off the screen. And we don't want that. So what we do is we're going to add a few additional objects so that it doesn't move off the screen. Alright, so let's do this. Let's go back to our class ball and let's add a few stuff. So after we've done the self.canvas.move, we want to specify what the canvas height is and our x and y variables. So self.x is equal to 0, self.y is equal to -1, and self.canvas height is equal to self.canvas.winFo height. Now, obviously it's 500, but that's fine. So we've added 3 more lines to our program. The self.x, self.y, and the self.canvas height. With the self.x equal to 0, we set the object variable x to 0. And the self.y is equal to -1, we're setting the variable y to -1. Finally, we're setting the object variable canvas height to the height of the canvas by calling the function winFoHeight, which just returns our canvas.height. So it's quite simple, and now we have to modify our draw function. So at the moment, all it's doing is saying self.canvas.move self.id 0, -1. What we're going to say is instead of 0 and -1, we'll be using self.x and self.y. Now, if you didn't understand that, let me try explaining it to you. Basically, we can now control these variables. So we can control where the ball is going to go. If you change the self.x, it'll change where the ball is going. If you change the self.y, it'll change where the ball is going. Quite simple. So click enter. Now we need a position. So just follow me here. It's a bit confusing, but I'll explain it. Pos is equal to self.canvas.chords self.id, and then we're going to say if pos1 is less than or equal to 0, self.y should be equal to 1. So I'll explain it, don't worry, just let me just finish typing this out and then I'll explain. And then we're going to say if pos3 is greater than or equal to self.canvas_height, then we want to say self.y is equal to -1. Awesome. So this is actually some quite intricate and cool code. In the beginning I explained, we changed this to self.id and self.x, self.y. So we're using now the x and y here. We initialized 2 variables, x and y. We made that 0 and -1. So technically it's 0 and -1 right now. Then we used position, or pos is equal to self.canvas.chords self.id. Now you must be wondering, what is this stuff? All we're saying here is self.canvas.chords. The .chords returns us an array. So it's going to give us an array with x1, y1, x2, y2. So you're like, you must be wondering, how does that help us? We don't require any of this. Well, we do. So by calling the function self.canvas.chords self.id, we pass in the id parameter, which was our id, and it'll return us this, an array which stores our coordinates at that moment. And using that, what we can do is we can check. So pos1. So pos square brackets 1, what does that refer to? y1. Because remember, 0, 1, 2, 3. So we're saying if this value, y1, is less than or equal to 0, self.y is equal to 1. So this is pretty cool. All we're saying here is, if the ball's height, so the top of the ball, y1, if it's less than or equal to 0. So remember, in the bounce, the top part, this part is 0, and anything above this is less than 0. Remember, this is 500, this is 0. So quite simple, 0, 500, anything below 0 will be considered over here. That's not on our screen. So we're saying if the ball is equal to 0 or if it's less than or equal to 0, then we were making self.y equal to 1. So if this gets run, what do you think will happen? The ball will start moving in this direction. It'll start moving down. Why? Because here we're saying self.canvas.move and we're passing the parameter self.y. So from -1, it's going to change to 1 and the ball will start moving down. Now here we're saying if position 3 is greater than or equal to self.canvas_height, then we're saying self.y should be equal to -1. So it's the exact same concept. So whatever the height of the canvas is, so down here, if it's more than that, so over here, or if it's right at the 500 mark, then what we want to say is make self.y equal to -1. So it'll start going back up instead of going down. So that was some pretty complicated code. Hopefully you got that and it shouldn't be too bad. But one thing we can do here is let's just print out pause so that you understand what's happening. Command S, F5, or one sec, before we do that, let me just delete this array. Command S, F5. Awesome. Alright, so we have our bounce. Now look at this value. It's going to 0 and as soon as it hits 0, it started increasing. So our ball is now moving back. It's moving back. It's moving back. Now watch this fourth value, the one 290, 300 one. You will see right when it hits 500. So 440, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 and boom. So it hit 500 and it started decreasing. Awesome. So hopefully you got the concept, but now we've created a ball and the ball can now move between the top and the bottom without going off screen. Great. This is awesome. Now we have created a good ball. It's moving up and down, but actually we wanted to do more than that. We want to change its direction. So let's close this. Program is still running. You want to kill it? Okay. All right. And let's start changing the ball's starting direction. So at the moment, what's happening? It's just going up, down, up, down. We want to move it left, right. All right. So making a ball bounce slowly up and down isn't really much of a game. So let's enhance things by changing the ball's starting direction. So right now we have these lines. Self.x is equal to 0. Self.y is equal to -1. We don't want that. All we're going to do right now is say, let's create this. Create a new array. Let's call it start is equal to, and then let's create an array of -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Now, if you remember, what was the function of the random module used to get a random item from an array? If you remember, great. If not, don't worry. So we won't be using that. Instead, let's just use the shuffle. Random.shuffle. Random.shuffle. And what are we shuffling? We're shuffling our array start. So we'll shuffle this and then we're going to say self.x is equal to start 0 and then y should be -3. So it should speed things up a bit. Awesome. So hopefully you understood that. If not, I'll quickly explain. But first, let's run this to see if it's working. Source must be saved. Okay. So here's our Python shell. Awesome. So now you can see that the ball is moving in a different direction. This is what we wanted. But we forgot to change two things. So actually we need to update our code with a few more things. Let's close this. Do you want to kill it? Yes. First thing first is we want the ball to move faster. Right now it's moving too slow. So that's how we said -3. And if you're not getting why we put the minus and why not plus, because if we put the plus, the ball would come straight down and we would not have time to react with our paddle to hit the ball back. So obviously the ball should start by going up so that the user has time to react. Over here, self.y and self.y, let's make that 3 and -3 so that the ball moves a little faster. Now, right now, our top and bottom are secure, but our right and left are not secure. If the ball goes to the right or if the ball goes to the left, then it goes out and there's nothing we can do. So let's fix that. All right. So let's create a new variable over here. self.canvas_width is equal to self.canvas.windfo. So it's the exact same function, but just width. So now we've initialized another variable, canvas width. And if you remember, as I was talking about the coordinates, what does it return? x1, y1, x2, y2. So we've already called upon the y1 and the y2. Now we have to make sure that it does not go beyond the x1 and the x2. So it's quite simple. If pos 0, so we want to call the x1 this time, is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to say self.y, self.x should be equal to 3. And if pos 2 is greater than or equal to our canvas dot or underscore self.canvas.width, then what do you want to say? We want to say self.x should be equal to -3. So again, this was the exact same concept as this. If the position of the ball, the starting or the leftmost position of the ball is at the end or the leftmost side of the canvas, or if it goes beyond the left side of the canvas, i.e. 0, then we want it to start going in the right direction or start going to the other side. And if it's gone too far to the right, i.e. if it's self.canvas.width, if it's exceeding that, then we want it to go the other way. So simple as that. Let's run it, see what happens. F5. And it seems that error x1 not defined. Whoops, I forgot to delete our array. My bad. So Command S, F5. Awesome. So now we have a ball that is bouncing in a square box. Wow. So now you must be wondering, but that's nothing. I want to create my game. But yes, but we have to take things slowly. But this is actually quite cool. Awesome. So now the ball won't go out at any wall. It'll just keep on bouncing. Great. So now we have a bouncing ball and our code is looking pretty good. We have learned a lot. So let's do a quick recap. Let me close this and let me minimize this. So all we did in this lecture is we created constraints. So we called the function chords and we said that the chords results gives us an array x1, y1, x2, y2. And all we're doing is we're checking to see where the ball is. If the ball has gone beyond any point, then we want to reverse it and make it go the other way. And by doing that, the ball will stay in our canvas. Over here, to get the canvas height and the width, we call the functions winfo underscore height and winfo underscore width. Awesome. And to give the ball a random direction, all we did over here is said, created an array, -3, -2, -1, blah, blah, blah. And then all we said is shuffle it up and then give me the first value. Great. In the next lecture, we'll be creating our paddle, moving our paddle, and then we'll create some more animations and make our game a little more lively. Awesome. See you in the next lecture.